Takes us to item number 2 is a work session presentation by Dr. Greg Watson, the University of Arizona, regarding Phase 1, Phase 2, and a strategic recap update.
Well, good morning. I thank you very much for the indulgence that you let me run overtime last time. I promise I will not do that today, so I appreciate it a lot. I am so excited about listening to Jerry and Roberto, and I'm so embarrassed that I did not interview them. I've been enjoying my time in Pinal County. I've interviewed a little over 300 people here in the county. One of the things that I had the privilege of working with Tim Canavel. It's a real sorrow that we've lost him. But when I started working with Tim, he was all about economic development growth. Where are we going to go in the next 20 to 30 years? And what infrastructure, what do we need to put into place to be ready for where we need to be 30 years from now? And as part of those conversations with him, I said, for economic development, we have to also think about what is the quality of life in our communities? What is the culture and the values that we have to protect? What are our schools going to be looking like? What are our nature trails? And I found that there's this really awesome cliff that there's one day a year that we get a shadow that looks like a cat. And you guys can tell me about all these. So I've been discovering all these awesome things about Pinal. About every other weekend, I'm spending it. My wife and I come and spend the weekend at a bed and breakfast, a motel, and we don't tell anybody about who we are, and we just spend the weekend here. It allows me to talk to people without people knowing exactly who I am. But then I'm spending 2 to 3 days a week here in Pinal County. And so today I want to provide you an update about where we're at on our Tech Corridor project. We were supposed to be delivering our Phase 1 and Phase 2 executive summaries reports to you in late January, early part of February. And the strategic plan was to walk that executive summary around with our county manager and Tim Canavel. And then, of course, Tim got sick. And that put a little bit of a crimp and a delay on it. So I want to provide an update to you today about where we're at, how we're moving forward, and tell you how excited I am still about our project and how we're going to continue to move forward. So my name's Greg Watson, and I'm at the University of Arizona, and I love being here in Pinal County. So just a real quick recap, our Pinal County project has 5 phases. We're basically done with Phase 1 and Phase 2, and we're currently in process of working on Phase 3. Phase 1 and Phase 2, the Phase 1 report is an inventory and a roadmap. It's an assessment of the current state of Pinal County. What are our resources? What are our opportunities? Phase 2 was a stakeholder assessment where we communicated and collaborated with all of our key stakeholders throughout the county, visited with just about every single economic development official and just about every single city within the county. Well, I've been in every single city, visited with every single one of our economic development groups, most of our developers, most of our city leaders, many of our social organizations, a lot of individual community members. And I'm really disappointed that I didn't get to meet Roberto, because you should have been in that group there on my list, because that was one of the priorities that I pushed, was what is our social quality of life. So that's where we're at. So Phase 1 and Phase 2 reports are being walked around with our industry advisory group right now. So they're reviewing that, and they're providing our assessment and our feedback, really understanding what our local community needs are, what our specific cultural values, our industry growth vision for the future, what our planning interests are. For example, Eloy, Coolidge have been really actively involved, and we're walking that report around. So Phase 1, Phase 2 reports are going to be delivered to the county here very shortly. It's sad that we've lost Tim. He's a champion of life. He was a miracle of life. And so we are moving forward on an interim basis with our industry advisory board. It consists of about 18 individuals originally coordinated with the Pinal County leadership. Just about all of them are watching online today. just to get an update on where we're at. And I've been meeting with Eloy, meeting with Mexican stakeholders, meeting with Pinal County stakeholders, meeting with industry leaders. We've got some unusual ones you'll be hearing from another group presenting to you today. I've been in communications with them about their Japanese interest as well. So I try to keep my finger in the pulse of what's going on here in Pinal County, looking to the strategic vision for where we can go for the future. Our Phase 3 process is also well underway, looking at the technology. Where do we need infrastructure for the future? So you heard a lot in the last presentation about the roads needs, but roads is just one part of the infrastructure that we need to take a look at here in the county. But what is also the technology infrastructure that we need to lay the foundation for the future? And in our Phase 3 update, we're really going to do an in-depth assessment of the infrastructure and what kind of a roadmap do we need to put into place for the next 25 to 30 years. We are going to have the first smart highway coming through the state of Arizona, going right through here in Pinal County. That's an exciting foundation for the future. And so when we talk about the state of Arizona collaborating with Pinal County on the development of that particular piece of infrastructure, and the companies that are wanting to co-locate here in Pinal County for our electric vehicle motor testing, they're going to be looking at how do we actually deploy technology, how do we actually deploy vehicles for the development of this rollout in the future. How do we put the infrastructure, the communications infrastructure in the ground and put that deployment in the real world scenarios that we can start to test. And we're going to have the first smart highway that's being deployed within the state of Arizona running right here through Pinal County. So we've got some exciting futures that are being collaborated between the county and the state. Incredible opportunities. So I've been focusing really aggressively on listening. There's nothing worse than someone that wants to come talk, although that's what I'm doing right now. But I've been focusing very aggressively on making sure that I listen. And so I have a mantra in life that I listen to understand, not respond, because I want to listen to people, understand what their goals are, what their values are, what their strategic directions and visions are for the future. Because if we can't create the culture, if we can't create the values, which is very consistent with the last presentation that said that we came to this county because we wanted to have a vista. And if we don't create that infrastructure in a way that is consistent with the vision, the culture that each community has, and each community has its own culture that is a little bit different than the community that's just a little ways down the road, we have to understand that culture across the entire county. So I've worked hard to listen to understand all of the culture throughout the county. And I've been in just about every corner and every pocket of the county there are parts of the county that I didn't know were part of the county. And so I've been exploring it. So here about 2-3 days a week, and I anticipate this pattern to continue in the foreseeable future as we continue to engage key stakeholders. So I'm going to share a few little statistics with you as I wrap up, just because I like to play with data, and I love facts, I love figures, but figures are sometimes a little bit deceptive. So our own economic forecasting department at Eller College shows that the impact of automation over the course of the next 10, 20 years, we're looking at losing 154,000 jobs. That's a scary set of numbers. We have lots of low-skill jobs that are at high risk of being lost, not just within manufacturing, but within the service sectors of our economy. So the world's going to be changing quite dramatically over the course of the next decade. Now, I'm actually excited about this. So most people look at it from a scary perspective, and they want to jump back and go, oh, woe is me, woe is the world. This is really scary. It's going to be a terrible, terrible time. And I'm an optimist. I think that the future is always brighter. I really happen to believe that each generation makes the world a better place than what it was a generation before. And if we look throughout history, the quality of our life continues to get better each generation after each generation. So we do have some jobs that are at high risk. Farming is going to change quite dramatically. Same with forestry. If we look at the automation that's even occurring within farming, we're seeing tractors that are driverless that are out there. They're already in the fields doing driverless farming. We're seeing incredible high tech within farming where we're actually able to look at what we are planting on the square meter, square foot, and then looking at the yields that are occurring at that exact same square meter. And we're looking at the amount of fertilizer, the amount of water that we're deploying. So farming is changing. It's becoming very high tech. Production, sales, ground and building maintenance, food preparation, serving, everything is changing quite dramatically. And so people look at these and then they often go that it's actually scary. So what kind of skills are we going to be looking at being demanded in the future is a lot more sophistication with understanding how to utilize technology, IT skills, basically digital skills, but also entrepreneurship, critical thinking, and how do we innovate and how do we change and adapt for the future, but also how do we lead. Part of that's your responsibility, but also how do we teach people within our communities to lead? You saw evidence of that in our last presentation, and you'll see evidence of that in the presentations that follow me. How do we be creative? How do we create complex information understanding and integrate in our communities and integrate within our state and integrate within our society? So life is going to be fun. I want to share a couple pieces of trivia. We're at the convergence of a lot of things changing. Batteries and electric vehicles are always fun to talk about, so I just thought I'd pass on a few pieces of information here. So gas-powered vehicles have seen reductions in their sales. So in 2019, gas-powered vehicle sales were down 4%, and electric vehicles were up 16%. In 2020, down 15% and up 33%. So we're really close to the day and age where we're approaching price parity with gas-powered vehicles. Battery technology is continuing to improve year after year after year, allowing the range that vehicles can actually drive to get further and further and further. And when we take a look at price parity, and range, those are two of the really big factors that consumers look at in terms of are we willing to actually buy an electric vehicle versus a gas vehicle? This is really sensitive to those of us that live in more rural areas because those are really criterias. The average citizen is 4 minutes away from a gas station, but we're 31 minutes away from an electric charging station. That brings us to this last point, that the real battle is not about price parity on gas vehicles. It's really not about battery tech and distance. It's about infrastructure. When will gas-powered vehicles really be overpowered by electric vehicles? It's when the infrastructure comes into play that someone actually has the ability to charge their vehicle. Do they have the ability to drive into Phoenix and go on a shopping trip and not have to worry about whether their car can get charged and they have the ability to return home? So when people like Tim and I are talking about what kind of infrastructure do we need to be looking at for the next 20 to 30 years, we're really looking at where do we position ourselves for the future. And the real change, the real tipping point for electric vehicles is not the price parity on electric vehicles. It's not the battery duration for electric vehicles. It's when is it going to fit my lifestyle? When is it going to fit my ability to actually drive that vehicle to where I want to go so that it doesn't force me to change the way I want to live? And that goes back to the same conversation that I started right at the beginning. We care about the way that we live in our communities. We care about the lifestyle that we want to live here in Pinal County, and we're not going to change the lifestyle that we want to live. We care passionately about the environment, passionately about those buffer strips that I think Jerry described them as. We care passionately about the what brought us to Pinal County and the future that we want to live, the future that we want to create. So I can talk to you all I can about the economic development opportunities, but if I don't include the culture, if I don't include the values, it's not going to work. So industry snippet, industry snapshot after industry snapshot. Automation is scary, but I'm going to tell you that it's really going to enhance Pinal's workforce opportunity. As much as it threatens jobs, it's actually an exciting part of our economic future because it really gives Pinal County's outstanding workforce. We have 250,000 people that commuted into Phoenix. It gives businesses the opportunity because of automation. It changes the job skills that companies are looking for when they want to relocate a business. Pinal now has an even greater opportunity to compete globally for businesses relocating into our county here. Because before, we may have looked for greater welding skills, and we might not have had that capacity to provide the welding skills. Now we can use automation and robots and the human companions that work side by side with that automation, and that machinery and that human worker can work side by side in that manufacturing ability, and we can compete even more competitively globally to bring businesses relocating right here into Pinal County. So as much as automation is a scary concept to an awful lot of people, it is an incredible opportunity for us here in Pinal County because with the convergence of utilities, with the convergence of transportation, with the convergence of infrastructure that we have, the opportunities for Pinal are extraordinary. And that frightening concept of automation with loss of jobs that are really genuinely threatening a lot of industries and a lot of other communities, it really creates an incredible economic growth opportunity, a credible growth engine for Pinal County, and I'm excited about it. So those things that are scary to other people, they are opportunities for us, and I think it's something that we can look for as something that's exciting in the future. Now, if we go back a step in time, manufacturing had an awful lot of automation, and we hit this critical point of about 50 robots per 10,000 employees back in about the year 2000. We really started growing back in the 1990s. And then we hit this hockey point inflection growth where automation really started to grow very, very exponentially in manufacturing. Well, we're seeing that same point, that same inflection point today in society. In the year 2022, we've seen the same level of automation now start to explode across all sectors of our economy with that same level of automation that we saw in manufacturing just 4 decades ago. And we're going to see that same level of automation start to explode across all sorts of industries, all sorts of sectors, all sorts of businesses. And so what is scary to an awful lot of people all across the country, I'm going to tell you, I really passionately believe that our economic forecast, our economic research really shows that for Pinal, it's a huge opportunity for business growth and exploration of new businesses relocating here to our county. So I think that it is absolutely exciting. You've seen all of the talk about companies that are looking at Pinal, all of the economic assets that we have here. We're benchmarked by Phoenix. We're benchmarked by Tucson. We have these 2 great barbells on the end, but we're this incredible economic powerhouse sitting right here in the middle. And all of those assets are sitting here right for the future. So I really don't want us to slip and lose the momentum that Tim started to build for us. It's a loss. It's a sadness for all of us. I lost my father in January. I lost Tim just very, very recently. COVID's been a wicked disease. It's hit many of us that are really have family members, have friends that are really, really close to us, and I don't want us to lose this particular excitement. I don't want us to lose this momentum. My family believes in the celebration of life. My family believes in the celebration of the future. And that's what I really, really want to share passionately about what I believe about the Arizona Innovation Technology Corridor. And I think that's the vision that we want to continue to carry forward, is this excitement about the future, this vision for the future, and believe that it's an absolutely incredible time. So is this an incredible opportunity? I believe it is. I'm excited every week when I get to come to Pinal. I'm excited about every person that I get to meet. I love meeting Jerry from IBM. I hope to be able to visit with him in the future because every single stakeholder here in Pinal County, I'm passionate about learning about what their interests and what their priorities are. We have 2 state universities, we have regional utilities, we have local and international business partners, and all of them are awesome assets, awesome strategic assets, strategic partners to support us in the future. And I apologize for running long. You just can't shut me up. I tried my best to control it and control my enthusiasm, and I failed. I apologize. I just can't help but be excited about everything that's now.
They removed our trap door. They removed our trap door.
Yeah, they did.
Lever here.
I'll help you build it.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Watson?
I have just a comment. It's exciting to see automation, and I know that Central Arizona College has a program for that. I'd love to see that expanded and more students enroll in that, because that's
so. I've got a
future's
meeting
going.
with a VP on Friday, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about job skills, talking about how do we build micro certificates and push this out into small micro businesses. I left this little piece of plastic that's from one of our local companies that was asked to build a prototype for. I don't want to say exactly what type, but if I brought it to you, it would look blue plastic and like an exterior of something that you would recognize. And one of our local companies, they were asked because we're in the room, we're in the well, it might be Zoom, but we're in the room with an awful lot of incredible partners, and now our local companies are having opportunities to be invited to engage and participate on a global, national scale, saying, can you do this? And our companies are saying, yes, we can. And so I was going to bring this piece of plastic exterior part that we were asked to prototype here in Pinal County.
At any point, will you be recommending that this Board of Supervisors be replaced with robots?
No, I'm probably one of those hardcore people that believes that the human element it needs to always make the final judgment. The decision making needs to always be in the hands of humans. That's one of the greatest risks that I think that we. Artificial intelligence is a fun conversation to have, and those are fun debates to have. In my neck of the woods, we get to have those conversations about exactly how much do you allow artificial intelligence to be involved in decision-making processes. And I'm the hardcore advocate that says that information is awesome. But there's a new book out, Statistical Delusions. And it really shows you how there's an incredible amount of analysis work that says we can use statistics to prove everything except the truth. And just like the conversation about batteries, people think that price parity is going to be the inflection point for selling electric vehicles. No, it's not. People think that distance is going to be the inflection point for selling electric vehicles. No, it's not. It's the infrastructure. When we can live our lifestyle the way that we want to live our lifestyle, that's when we're going to buy electric vehicles. California can try to mandate the sale of electric vehicles, but we're going to have that infrastructure. That's the inflection point that's going to drive. So we have to be really careful about statistics. And as much as I love data, artificial intelligence can't always collect the understanding, the comprehension to really be able to do that kind of analysis. And it's why I care passionately about getting out in all of the communities to talk to people about what do they really care about and what do they really believe, because the data about Pinal County doesn't tell us the entire story. If we do not understand the values of people, the human compassions, the human component about what life is all about, what the quality of life is all about, we can't develop that strategic vision for the future with sheer numbers. The data doesn't tell us the answers to those questions.
Of course.
A couple thoughts, comments. The automation thing is, I've seen it in my own. I cut my teeth on framing houses. I was a carpenter. I made a good living. I'd show up with a roll of plans and a stack of wood, and I would take those plans and put out wood all together, and I created value for somebody, and I accomplished it, a lot of self-gratification with that. You feel good about what you've just done. And now I see a big old semi going down the road with all the walls already nailed together, everything's put together, and I bet I think it just says hook A to B, B to C, and they just stand them up and call it good. Loses a lot of the challenge in being able to, decipher. But I understand how and why it got there. It's, workman's comp is a lot cheaper in a factory than it is out on a job site. They've streamlined those efforts. They probably can frame a house and save maybe 10 to 15 man hours, maybe even more. So I get all that, but I've watched that automation in my own industry that I grew up in. So I think it will continue to go that way in the future, particularly in the housing industry. To create entrepreneurs, you've got to have freedom. You have to have liberty. We have to let our youth know that they have the freedom and to explore, to experiment, to get those juices flowing. Don't put sideboards on them. Tell them to use their imagination. I mean, if anybody watches the History Channel and see how some of these guys that made millions and millions was because they were in the kitchen trying to make something, and they end up becoming multimillionaires. But it's being able to have the freedom to be able to do that and not have restraints on people while they're exploring different ideas and different avenues. So, and Americans are the best at it. I mean, we really are the people that have that vision of trying to make things go faster and be bigger and what have you. And so I always believe in American initiatives to move forward. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments. A lot of great information.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Pardon me?
Thank you very much for saying that.
Okay. So when you need our help, you know where to come. And if there's anything else we can help you with, keep bringing these good reports. And so I see how we may want to weave these into our strategic plan going forward and work with our junior college. Central Arizona College has been a great partner in a lot of this stuff. And thanks to Dr. Elliott up there, the president of CAC.
I'm a huge advocate of our community college system.
She's a real forward thinker, and she's done a lot of good things there to these kind of programs. So, anything else? If not, thank you again.
Thank you for our access time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.